Welcome back, dear viewers. You're still watching today's episode of the Daily Debate, and as we'll be shedding more light on U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis' visit to the Middle East and African region, and the importance of this visit and the importance of the visit to Egypt, we have with us today in the studio General Hussein Abdurazik, a security expert. A very good evening, sir. Thank you, sir. And we also have with us Ambassador Mohamed Elhouseni, former Assistant Foreign Minister. A very good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, we start off today by asking U.S. Secretary of Defense Jim Mattis started a 5-day tour of 5 nations in the Middle East and Africa yesterday. What's the strategic and political significance of this tour, and putting into consideration that this is the 4th time that Mattis' 4th trip to the region since taking up his own post?
Well, this visit really reflects the U.S. policy toward the Middle East. President Trump considers the Middle East is a very important area, and his policy is to restore the weight and the influence of the United States in this region. You know, after a hard time with the Obama administration. And I think the time has come for the U.S. policy to deal with the reality, away of this statement made by President during the election campaign. So the reality is something different. And he sent his secretaries throughout the world. And the Defense Secretary now did the visit to many areas in Asia and in Africa and the Middle East as well. And I think this visit is very important, and it comes in a very critical time. They now reassess the situation in the area to have a real vision towards the issues, the main issues that prevail the region, terrorism, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, the situation in Syria, in Yemen, in Libya. So all these main issues has to be discussed openly and frankly with the leaders of the countries in the Middle East. That's why he did his visit. I think this is sort of exploring the reaction of the major countries towards the vision of the United States towards these issues. How they react, how they accept, how they refuse, how they want to amend some points toward this issue or that issues. So this is exploring visits, I think, and it comes after 3 years. For the Republican to be in the office, and the time has come to deal with these main issues freely and actively. That's why he did this visit to this critical area.
Ambassador Mohamed Elhouseni, U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis is visiting Egypt basically to discuss regional issues. Yeah. This is, of course, a statement published on the Pentagon's official website. What are the most important issues topping the agenda of his discussions upon his arrival, sir?
The points, or let's highlight first the main reason for the U.S. Defense Secretary to visit Egypt is assuring that the previous meeting with President Sisi in the United States of America is going now in the right path. Supporting from Mr. Trump to President Sisi, it will not come based on the news or the media, it will come on the ground. So on the ground, Egypt now to the whole world is fighting terrorism. And we are, let's say they are delivering a message that you guys not alone, we are supporting you with all the kind of support. First, he went to Saudi Arabia, discussing with Crown Prince Sheikh Mohammed bin Salman about the supporting Saudi Arabia also in the war in Yemen, and how we can also protect the Gulf. Because based on that, when you talk an economical vision, before we talk about political vision, and before we talk about Egypt also, because the Gulf is the right path to the security to Egypt as well. So when you consider Obama administration, based on what the general have said, that Obama administration have failed in the Middle East, have lost a lot of allies, the revolutions have been done, they supported the other side, which look like the Muslim Brotherhood. They wanted to divide the nations in a typical Islamic lines. So based on that, what Mr. Trump is trying to do now, he is trying to readapt the situation. How he will do that? By supporting his allies. Supporting his allies look like he is visiting the Gulf region, saying we are here and we are going to Egypt, because Egypt, that all of you supposed to be united fighting the terrorism. So when he is going now, he is going to Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Egypt and Djibouti and Israel in the back scene. So Egypt now, there is a war is coming as a major point in Libya. And Egypt is supporting the stability in the two sides in Libya, which is the parliament and the other side. So this is the first point. The second point, they will discuss about how the United States of America military can support the Egyptian army in the weapons and the high-tech weapons fighting terrorism, because we are away of the terrorism, because they have this kind of technology weapons, and generally know about it, about finding the bombs and about the airplanes without a pilot. Those high-tech weapons, that's what we need, and that's what President Fattah al-Sisi, when he went to the Pentagon and the United States, have talked with them and discussed with them that we need this. And the third thing is how we reamount the military relation with Egypt, because we have the F-16 and the Apache chops. The maintenance have been stopped in the Obama administration. They was blind and they was closed. Seeing there is a new divert in Egypt and the Egyptian is taking them freedom, they didn't support it. They support the other agenda. Now Trump is going to do what? Anything our military need, they will gonna to support it. This will be the third point. The fourth point is supporting Egypt also with Djibouti based in Yemen path, because this is a strong strategic one, because if they will not support us in that will be hard. And the fifth point, Egypt is the only stable country and the stable zone can lead to the United States and intelligent information, because our intelligent department or intelligent authority is the only stable. In Syria, it have been destroyed. In Iraq, it have been destroyed. In Libya, have been destroyed. In Yemen as well. So whom they can rely? They can rely in the first army in the Middle East and the 13th army position in the world, which is the Egyptian army. So this is the major 4 points in the cooperation, and the meeting will be coming.
General Abdulrazak, during President Fattah al-Sisi's visit to the United States and talks with Trump's national security advisor at the U.S., President Fattah al-Sisi stated that security and military cooperation between Cairo and Washington is an important pillar in the relations between both countries. How do you read this in light of U.S. Defense Secretary's visit to Egypt?
Look, I read in the state many times, and I heard from the High Commander much about the importance of Egypt in the region. You know, they said that Egypt is the beaver country in the Middle East. And they know very well we are a deep-rooted country, we are a big country, we are a very strong country. And they can rely on us, you know, in the region where most of the major countries have been divided, have been involved in civil wars. So Egypt, in the eyes of the American, is a stable country, a very strong country, and also a country has a practical vision in solving the problems in the Middle East, particularly the problems that the United States concerned about: terrorism, solving the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, and restoring stability in the major countries, Iraq, Syria, and Libya, and Yemen as well. Restoring the stability and the peace in this area will help the United States and the entire world, you know, to move forward in peace relation and good cooperation instead of involving in fighting and quarreling and conflicting each other. So this is the vision of the U.S. administration in the reign of Trump. He had met with President Sisi before. He listened to him, and I think President Sisi was able to convince him with the role of Egypt in the region, and he instructed him about the real situation and the real dangers that prevailed the region if the United States
does not
follow the same policy of Trump administration. So he was convinced.
Do you mean Trump
and
administration or Obama administration?
Obama administration. So he has to make a new policy and to strengthen his ties with Egypt because he really believed that Egypt is a bigger country in the region.
So the timing and the significance of the timing of the visit of the U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis.
The timing, it's the right timing for them. Why? Because first, before we mention the previous question, you need to understand that the administration there in the United States, they are looking now about who is supporting the Middle East and how Obama administration was soft with Iran, because when you look now to Syria and you look to the recategorize based of the religion and based of the beliefs, that the whole community have been a change. And now you have Hezbollah from Lebanon, and you have the Iranian soldiers, and you have the Syria have been lost. So when Trump, this is when you talk about timing, when Trump saw that Assad, or as what they say in the reports in the United States, they have used the chemical weapons. What he have sent the mussels from the ships was laying there, and giving a message to them, to this administration and to Iran as well, that we are here. So in that timing, that Russia, we are a good ally to Russia, and Russia is a good supporter to us, and we cannot say that because we cannot say anything else rather than that, because in the critical time they was beside us and they didn't reject us. So Mr. Trump, he wanted to change this based of his message to the Iran and his message to North Korea, and now he is giving his third message in the triangle, saying the Middle East, I'm coming, and I'm recategorizing the situation in the Middle East. Who is the big countries that I can deal with? I'm talking about as a defense and military lines. Saudi Arabia and Egypt, and Egypt in the first, of course. So he is now trying to adapt the situation with Saudi Arabia and Egypt and how the cooperation will gonna to be in fighting Iran. This is number one. Number two, not sending troops from Egypt, but I'm talking about military cooperation. And the third thing is, before we was always saying, and this is something good and something we wanted to salute our president and our administration, that they returned the position to Egypt to say what the United States need from Egypt, not what Egypt need from the United States. Because before, the whole world was looking to us that we need the support and we need the aid from the United States, which is already 1 billion or 1.3, and they already reduced it. Now, President Abdel Sisi, when he went there, It was just before a month ago, and the cooperation and the communication meetings have been done. Say they are looking to him. This is the only man standing and securing his country, fighting terrorism, fighting ISIS, and who put the infrastructure to ISIS. We all know. So if he wanted to change the mentality of the Middle Eastern people to the U.S. citizen and the U.S. administration after he stated the law of banning the 7 countries from entering the United States, so he need to support the administration in the Middle East, converting them to make them countries restable again. So this is the time after his 2 messages to North Korea and to Iran.
General Abdurazzaq, how could the military cooperation between the United States and Egypt help in restoring stability in the region?
You know, we have a long time of cooperation between Egypt and the United States. And in our policy, in diversification of armament sources, you know, we directed our policy toward the United States after signing the peace accord with Israel. And since then, we shifted our armament from the Russia and the Soviet Union to the United States. And we also make a lot of deals with many other countries, with England, with France, with Korea, so we are not relying on one source, you know. So in this time, we just regain our strong cooperation between our army and the United States in the field of military, I mean. It was very strong. We had a lot of progress made in the time of Carter and Clinton, but in the reign of Obama, I think we lost the canvas, you know, and the United States, unfortunately, didn't pay any attention to this sort of cooperation. So now Trump realized that he had to restore this cooperation and to move even more than it was before. And he promised President Fattah al-Sisi that he will increase the U.S. aid to Egypt, especially to fight terrorism in the region, and to provide Egypt with extra assessment and extra help in field of military, and provide Egypt whatever it needs, you know, to be more strong and more stable in the region. And that's very good. And in another term, we have an agenda, you know, for the meeting between Mr. Mattis and our Minister of Defense. We have an agenda to be discussed, and of course this agenda include a lot of many things, weapons and military training and exchanging information and so on, and even the technology, you know. We need to enhance our capabilities in fighting terrorism in the region, you know, on the agenda, on the top of this agenda. So I expect this visit to be successful and to enhance the cooperation between Egypt and the United States military, to restore its good time and good cooperation. And I was one of the witnesses, you know. I had a lot of training in the United States. I did a lot of visits to the United States. I was a commander in the UN for some times, so I did a lot of visits to Washington, New York, and many other states. And I think we are going to restore this strong relation. And I know that there is some commanders, the commander of the CENTCOM, the Central Command Post in the Middle East, did a lot of visits to Egypt and had a meeting with the Chief of Staff and Minister of Defense, and all the details about this visit had been discussed before the arrival of the U.S. Defense Secretary.
Dear viewers, we go now for a report, and we will be back again with our guests in the studio.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received on Wednesday Ethiopian Foreign Minister Warkina Gebrehou at the presidency headquarters in Al-Ittihadiyya Palace in the presence of the Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry. Ethiopian Foreign Minister handed a written message to President el-Sisi from the Ethiopian President, which stressed the Ethiopians' keenness to boost cooperation with Egypt in various domains. On the other hand, President el-Sisi welcomed Gebrehou, noting that the historic relations between both countries are strong. President el-Sisi stressed on the importance of coordination between both sides in various issues of common interests. The head of state reaffirmed his keenness to hold a joint high committee between both countries in Cairo soon. Noteworthy, Ethiopian Foreign Minister arrived in Cairo earlier on Wednesday in a two-day official visit. Ethiopian ambassador to Cairo received him at the airport. It is scheduled that the Ethiopian minister will meet a number of Egyptian senior officials to discuss ways to boost bilateral cooperation between Egypt and Ethiopia in various fields, in addition to latest African developments.